So let's say you've been invited to be the guest on a Hangout on Air, this live YouTube video thing that's really taken over the world. And you want to be the best possible guest you can be. Well, this is the right video for you to be watching because we're going to go over what it is that you need to know about coming right up. Hey, here's a tip. When you see these menus that are over here just to the side of me, right over there, do you see? Go ahead and click on the different parts if you want to jump around because these menus will be clickable and you can jump right to the different parts of the video if you're coming back to review and you can see that particular portion real fast. Okay, so we're now inside a Hangout interface. This is the same as the Hangout on Air interface that you're looking at right here. I'm going to turn on my little bullet points and get you right to the points that you need to know, and then we'll go into the details of those later. So let's get started. On the top, account setup. You don't want to have multiple accounts, and we're going to talk about that. No blue heads allowed. Next thing we're going to talk about is your environment. What's it look like around you? What your headset and your camera's doing? How you learn how to mute and unmute. Those are important things. And then we'll look good all the time. We'll figure that out. What does that mean? We're going to talk about the lower third, this thing right down there, and the group chat function within the Hangout interface, and practicing what's that mean. And then last but not least, inviting, getting invited and seeing where to go find that invite. So let's go back to the first one and start her up. Okay, so when you first start out with Google Plus, you, like many, may have multiple accounts. Probably done by accident. Not your fault necessarily, but this is what happens. You might have 2, 3, 5, 6 accounts. Find the one you're going to use most frequently and make sure that that has a pretty profile picture, your face. And turn the rest into blue heads until you can get rid of them. At some point you want to get rid of them. If you need help doing that, find me. I will try to help you. But bottom line, if you have just one account, then the person, the host, that's inviting you in will know which is the right you to invite. So you want to make sure that you can limit the choices so that you can find the host can find you. And that's best done by making no blue head for that account, but putting a pretty profile picture. And if you can, get rid of the other ones or turn them into blue heads, meaning take away their profile pics. Okay, next, your environment. What's it look like? What's it look like around you? I've got a mess because I'm a piler, and around me you don't see any of the mess. So bottom line is you want to make sure that it looks as professional as possible so that your situation looks good compared to everybody else that's in the Hangout that you're going to be a guest on. You also want to make sure that your lights are good. Lighting is very important. Sound and lighting, big important things for video. So make sure that the lights that are in front of you are brighter than any of the lights that are behind you. In fact, if you can, you want to try to eliminate the light from behind you. That's called backlighting, and it's really not going to be that good for you inside this webcam type video. So try to bring as much light in front of you facing your face. That's a good tip. Okay, next, the headset. I've got a headset on. Reason why, if I don't, you get this nasty echo. Plus, I have a better quality microphone built right into the headset. So if you don't have a headset because you've got hair and you don't want it to mess up your hair, I totally understand that. Bottom line though, if you have a separate microphone that you're using, you want to make sure that the speakers aren't giving feedback right into that microphone, which means you're going to get this nasty echo. So especially on a laptop, you do not want to just use the built-in stuff. Put in some headphones or earbuds if you don't want to have a headset. I like this headset because it works really well. This one only costs $30. I mean, you can spend more and more money if you like on fancy microphones and all that, but basically the bottom line quality is good enough with this headset. If you don't like a headset, get a good quality microphone, put in some earbuds. That'll be your best bet. Okay, the camera. Built-in cameras are fine for Macs because they're all HD nowadays. If you have a PC and it's an HD camera, you're probably fine. If not, you might want to look into the Logitech line of cameras. The C920 or the C930 are a great buy, and they give you really good quality for the camera. You can get fancier if you want, but you don't really need to. All right, moving on. Learning to mute and unmute. When you arrive inside of a Hangout on Air, you might be muted automatically. And that's going to be this little thing up here. I'm going to point to it. We're going to zoom in on that. There it is. I'm going to click on it. There's the big red mute button. So if you'll note in your thumbnail image where you normally see it, yeah, it's even telling you, hey, you're muted. I understand. If you note in the thumbnail image, you'll see that there's a big red microphone. That means you're muted. No one can hear you. So up here, I can see it now because I have blue boxed myself just so that I'd be in the main window for making this training video. Go to the upper portion where the microphone icon is, click on it again, and then you can unmute yourself. Okay, so if you arrive and you're automatically muted, unmute it. Just click on it again. So make sure there's no red there. And note, when you are talking, you'll see right next to the microphone this little green thing changing over to yellow or red if I get too loud. Okay, that's one indication that people can hear you. The other is if you look down at your thumbnail, down there in the bottom part where the film strip is, see that little green thing moving around? That gives indication that you're talking. So that's a handy thing for you to know about. You can look down there and see whether people can hear you or not. Just make sure if you see a red thing here, click on it again so that it's not red again when you're needing to talk. But a great idea is when you're not talking, mute yourself. Why? Because when you mute yourself, no one can hear all the extra noises that might be going on in the background. So there you go. Mute and unmute. It's a good idea to learn how to do that. Okay, let's move on to the next set of instructions. Now, looking good all the time. Well, that's hard for me because I don't really look that good. But the bottom line, what I mean by that is don't be looking around and wondering whether someone's going to be asking you another question. If you're the featured guest, there's a good chance that the Hangout on Air host has done what I did to me right down here. I put a blue box around myself. That means I am in the main window because what the host sees is what the public sees when they're broadcasting. Therefore, there's a good chance, even though someone else down here in this film strip might be talking or asking you a question, that you are still on the camera. You're still in the main window because you're the featured guest. So just realize whether you can tell it or not, you might be right there in the front and center. So just try to look good all the time. That's the bottom line. If you're on a public broadcast hangout, there's a good chance you're going to be visible. So don't be doing stuff around your face that much if you can handle it. And just remember, you're looking good. Now, if for some reason the phone rings or something, you need to do something else in the middle of the show, you can go up here where I'm pointing in the upper right corner and see where it says turn camera off. I'll turn it off. Click on that. And it just shows the avatar. Okay, so that you can be moving around, you can be doing stuff, you can scratch your nose, whatever you need to do, and then click on the camera again and you're back. Okay, so just realize you are probably in the main screen. If you need to hide your face for some reason, turn off your camera. That's the quickest and easiest way to do that. Okay, let's talk about the lower third. That is using a tool right here I've got on the left called the Hangout Toolbox. Hangout Toolbox is loaded. Look on the upper right portion and you'll see the first icon here is called the lower third. That right there allows us to see all these different presets if you've saved them. I'm a little fancier than most because I got a bunch of presets, and that's what I'm doing with these special bullet points right here. The lower third allows you to turn on this stuff right here, which is what I call self-identification. Okay, the most basic one, let's see if I got a basic one. Looks kind of like that. Okay, and that's fine, totally fine. I just get a little fancier and put up some more custom ones that I've made. Bottom line is you're going to want to self-identify, and if you don't know how to use the lower third, just make sure that you get into the Hangout on Air early enough so you can ask the host, how do you do this? How do you turn it on? And they'll show you. At least they should. Okay? So bottom line, you want to turn on the lower third so that you can self-identify. You can put the name of your website, your name, those kind of things. Very important for people to see while you're doing a Hangout on Air, especially if everybody else in that film strip has the lower third on and you don't, then it looks a little awkward. Okay, so you just want to turn that on if you can. Group chat. Over here in the upper left, I'll click on it. There's a thing called chat. And in the upper right is where it shows up. And when people start typing, you will see the text show up there. So it's possible and feasible that there's a whole nother conversation going on in that chat area over there. And people will be saying, hey, Ronnie, you're going to be up next. That'll give you time to prep. So you want to make sure that you are seeing the chat stuff in the upper right, and you do that by clicking on the blue thing over here on the left. Now, if you see a little number 1, 2, or 3, or whatever that's red next to that, that means other people have typed chat messages, and you haven't seen them yet. So just go ahead and click on this blue thing on the left. It shows up on the right, and you can see little notes for yourself or other people. You can even have a conversation going on while some other people are talking. Okay, so that's the group chat thing. I'm going to go back to the Hangout Toolbox. Okay, practice. Practice makes perfect, right? So if you can, do what like I'm doing. Come into a Hangout, not even necessarily Hangout on Air, just a regular Hangout. Invite yourself in, because you need to do that nowadays. Invite yourself. You're the only person involved. And practice. Just be here alone is fine. Get used to the environment. Look through the videos that I've got out there to help you learn that. But get used to your environment inside the Hangout so you feel comfortable. That way, when you are invited into your Hangout on Air, you're going to not feel so out of place. You'll know a little bit about what's going on. Practicing is a great idea. If you don't blue box yourself down here, this is what it looks like. So it's a good idea if you can just click on your thumbnail down the bottom. It shows you up in the big window right up here, and then you can get a visual as to what everybody's going to see. You can see what the background looks like. It looks like, oops, that drape didn't go far enough over to the one side, or there's this bright light there, or whatever. You can tell what it looks like when you're practicing. And by the way, when the Hangout Toolbox is off or other apps are off, then you'll see this, and when it's back on, you'll see that. So it just sort of shifts around a little bit. Okay, invites, probably the most important part, saved it for last. When you're invited into a Hangout on Air, you should receive some type of a notification. If you're new to Google Plus, you might not know where to look for that. It's that little red thing. Now, you might not notice it, or it might disappear or whatever. It just gets weird sometimes. What I'm going to suggest is the fail-safe method is find out who's inviting you. Know what their profile is, and I'm going to bring that right up here. Now here is an example. This is my profile on Google Plus, and I invited myself into the Hangout, so I see this little option that says join a video call with Ronnie Bincer. You see the button right there? It says join Hangout. That's your fail-safe method in. All right, so let's get the Hangout interface back up. So if you can't find that invite because for whatever reason you just can't get it, look for it by going to that particular person's profile or the page's profile that's invited you. And by the way, here's an extra tip. If you are invited by a page to do a Hangout on Air, make sure that you have circled the page before the Hangout on Air starts, because that's going to make it easier for you to get that invitation to actually show up. And when I say circle, don't use the circle called following. That's not going to be good enough. Make something called special Hangouts or whatever, and then circle them, add them to that circle before the Hangout on Air starts, and it works. So there's the overview. That's how to become the best guest possible. And by the way, you need to have your message, your marketing message down, your stadium pitch, whatever it is you're going to be saying to people. That's a given. I'm talking primarily about what are the tools, the technology, how do you make the most out of this Hangout on Air experience so that you can make the best first impression possible. So this has been Ronnie Bincer, the Hangout Helper. I'm helping you use Hangouts to the best of your capability. And it really matters. Your first impressions are really important. So go ahead and practice first, and then you can do all this stuff. You'll knock it out of the park. Circle me right there on Google Plus. Click on that thing. It'll take you to Google Plus, and you can circle me. And we'll see you soon.